We said goodbye to the big city of Bangkok and flew to Krabi International Airport. After a long taxi ride to Lem Kraut Pier, we boarded a long-tail boat acting as a ferry. Thai long-tail boats utilize an old car engine mounted on board as the motor, which makes them very loud. A telescope propeller reaches out into the water, looking somewhat like a long tail.
Hence the name.
Our boat skirted the beautiful mangrove-lined shores of small islands, making one stop to unload a few locals before arriving at Mutu Pier on Koh Jum Island.
Also known as Koh Phu, depending on which half you're on.
Our island transport was a sidecar-style tuk-tuk, which brought us to Valora Bay Hotel. Newly built in December, the resort straddles the crest of a hill with 6 bungalows on the roadside slope. Our lovely large private bungalow, however, was one of only 2 on the ocean side jutting out from the cliff, nestled in a tree and on stilts overlooking the Andaman Sea. The star of the suite was the spacious seaside balcony with a huge tree branch growing up through the floor and out the railing. The resort was wonderful, but definitely not handicap accessible. Deep, steep stairs led down to our suite and to the rocky beach below. The resort was surrounded by dense trees with another larger resort up to the north and the aptly named Rock Bar
Up on the rocks
to the south. We were here to enjoy the relaxed island life of Koh Jum for 2 weeks. The first night we had dinner at the resort restaurant. The meal was quite tasty. It was more expensive than it had been in the cities, and the portions were smaller, but that would be a running theme everywhere we ate on the island. After dinner, we went for an evening stroll along the road.
Yes, the road.
There's basically one north-south lengthwise strip with a few short branches out to either side. The road has stretches that are quite dark, with scooters, tuk-tuks, and trucks driving much faster than necessary. After this first anxiety-inducing experience, we took to wearing reflective armbands any time we were out after sunset. We spent our first full day relaxing on our large balcony, enjoying the tropical weather and the ocean view. That night we had our first meal away from the hotel at Sea Charm Thai Cuisine. The island is all about slow food, not as a stylistic choice, but because most places only have one cook making everything for everyone. There were 3 occupied tables when we sat down. They all had drinks and were playing board games. They had all ordered before we showed up and were entertaining themselves while waiting for food. About an hour after we ordered, Heike's green curry finally arrived, eventually followed by stir-fried broad rice noodles with vegetables and tofu, stir-fried molinho leaves with egg, and lab gai.
Remember lab mu was pork?
This one was minced chicken fried up with a liberal amount of coriander, lime, lemongrass, and chilies, creating a delicious, almost Mexican cuisine smell to it. Heike doesn't often lament not eating what John's having, but the aroma of this dish definitely had her salivating. The next day we went snorkeling off the rocky beach at the resort. Heike's full-face, easy-breathe setup gave a wide field of vision and allowed her to talk underwater.
I hear you snickering. You can all just keep those "now she can talk everywhere on earth" jokes to yourself.
And John's prescription goggles were super clear without the need for glasses or contacts. The snorkeling was pretty good too. Along with spiky urchins and big fat sea cucumbers, we saw dozens of different types of fish. We spotted more wildlife during a walk to the store.
Monkeys!
About a dozen monkeys were hanging out in the trees beside the road. As we watched them, several more came tearing across the road from the roof of the restaurant behind us, their mouths stuffed full of some kind of pilfered food. This would not be our only monkey encounter. Wanting to support our hosts, we again dined at the hotel restaurant. Heike had pad thai and spring rolls.
A spring roll. They had run out, so they gave me the last one for free.
John had spicy papaya salad and a Thai spicy sour soup full of squash and shrimp. The next afternoon we went kayaking north along the island. It offered us great views of our resort and the others lining the shore. Even from that vantage, our bungalow was difficult to see, which wasn't great for pictures, but it was what made it so wonderfully private. As we paddled, fish would occasionally leap into the air near the kayak. On the barnacle-covered rocks jutting out from the water, we spied large crabs scuttling around the waterline. As the sun dropped, we were joined on the bay by locals, heading out in their kayaks to fish with nets. And once it was dark, we could see the far-off green glow of squid boats luring their prey by mimicking bioluminescent creatures with chartreuse-colored lights. One day, we decided to walk the road to the north end of the island. It was hot.
Remember, we were planning to take these walks earlier in the day?
7 kilometers each way took us past multiple rubber tree plantations, which was most people's livelihood here before tourism took hold. The rubber trees have a section of bark cut out and a spout installed to collect the sap.
Liquid rubber.
like they do with sugar maples. The raw white rubber sap collects in coconut shells or rounded plastic cups. As it fills, the rubber is rotated until it creates a ball. These balls are then fed through presses, and the resulting sheets of rubber are dried in the sun. The road ended at Sunset Beach, where dozens of scooters lined the pavement. They belonged to all the tourists who rented them, then drove the same route we had walked. The beach was not appealing to a couple of boring old farts like us. There was a stoner bar.
Have we mentioned pot is legal in Thailand?
And a hostel with odoriferous dreadlocked people who should neither be filthy,
Given that an ocean bath is literally steps away?
nor should they have dreadlocks.
Given their severe lack of melanin?
The weed and cigarette smoke was pretty overpowering, even though everything was outdoors. We did not stay long. On the walk back, we saw interesting plants and flowers, and plenty of monkeys, cows, cats, and dogs. When we got back, Heike stopped to chat with the hotel manager, while John went down to the bungalow. As he approached our suite, he could hear banging and knocking like someone was inside our room. Around the far side, he spotted several monkeys climbing on our balcony. But as he turned to go towards our door, a thick brown snake hurriedly slithered under the large rocks 2 feet from our doorway. Well, shit. What to do? Go towards the snake's hideout and risk a bite to get into our bungalow? Or hang back to allow the snake time to move on while monkeys were possibly ransacking our snacks and underwear? He decided to split the difference by making noise and giving the snake a dozen seconds or so to hopefully slink away into the woods. Then John carefully slipped into the bungalow, keeping an eye out for agitated reptiles before bursting through the door. The simians weren't inside yet. There were monkeys all over the deck, with 3 of them at our patio door, all trying their hardest to somehow push their way inside. They saw John and froze, caught in the attempted B&E. John rushed at the patio door shouting, "Booga, booga, booga, booga!" The monkeys backed away and a couple fled, but there were still half a dozen on the balcony looking at John through the glass unimpressed. So John went back to the snake door and carefully collected a few stones while keeping his distance from where he saw the serpent. He then went out onto the patio, which scared a few more of the monkeys off. A couple purposefully wide warning throws.
John would never hit an animal with a rock.
Had the rest retreating into the trees. Heike had a small collection of shells on the balcony, which the monkeys had taken. When she returned and discovered her shells were gone, Heike went out and scolded the monkeys, who seemed to be amused by her and frolicked in the adjacent tree, occasionally tossing one of the pilfered shells back at her. They continued to scamper back and forth loudly across our roof for some time. One got brave enough to sneak back and peer through the patio door. John just happened to be sitting nearby, out of sight. He shouted and lunged forward at the monkey, and it bolted. They were gone, for the moment. Hopefully so was the snake. That evening, we splurged on a big dinner at Season Resort Restaurant. We had salads, shakes, Penang fried curry vegetables, spicy Penang fried curry beef, tom kha gai, and shrimp fried rice. It took 4 dishes and a shake, but John was almost satiated.
Almost. We did stop for ice cream after.
One afternoon, we went for a ride on the hotel bicycles. They were small and low-end, but they seemed to do the job.
Until they didn't.
We rode to Koh Jum Pier at the south end of the island. On the way back, we planned to check out a few of the spurs of the main road. About 100 meters into the first one, John attempted to change gears. Instead of shifting, there was a couple of loud cracks and the bike stopped dead. The entire derailleur had snapped off, entangling itself and the chain into the spokes of the rear wheel. The bike was not going anywhere. We contacted the hotel. After a lengthy wait, some spent with a local dog who just wanted to hang out, they sent a tuk-tuk to pick up John and his bike, while Heike made the solo ride back. Once again, we returned to monkeys on the balcony. This time, they weren't trying to get in or do anything destructive.
Biting the chairs and rubbing their anuses on the table might be considered a little destructive.
So we just watched them, and they watched us. For the rest of our stay, we got into a routine of lounging, swimming, snorkeling, and exploring, while trying out various restaurants and repeat dining at the best ones. One of those we hit more than once was Ban Ban. Some highlights here were the cheesy Thai fusion pizzas, like Penang chicken, the northern dishes, like khao soi, the creamy curries, like green veggie curry and duck breast Penang, and the desserts, like delicious cinnamon buns and roti with honey. Our next-door neighbor, the Rock Bar, liked to play the same songs every day, an array of adult contemporary from the 80s and 90s that was pretty far from resembling their name. One night, we were told it was the owner's birthday. They had live music. The band playing the music was okay, putting reggae or ska rhythms behind recognizable cover tunes. But they had possibly the worst singer ever. He sounded like he was purposefully trying to sing poorly and off-key. Like the kind of singer at karaoke that's so bad it makes you cringe, but you admire their bravery for at least getting up there.
We did not admire this guy.
One night we went to Lucky's for dinner. We were the last ones there, and Lucky himself struck up a conversation with us. We talked about the island, which he grew up on and loves, but he feels the tourism is growing too quickly. As much as it brings in dollars, it also brings congestion and problems and transition. We chose Koh Jum because of its reputation for being one of the most relaxed and least touristy places in Thailand. But that is rapidly changing.
For better and for worse.
Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man.